In the year 2043, the world had changed in many ways, but people still searched for new energy sources and rare minerals to keep their machines running. In the freezing lands of Antarctica, a group of miners worked deep below the ice. They were drilling through layers that had not been touched for thousands of years. The wind outside howled like a beast, and the temperature could freeze metal. But the crew continued their mission. They had no idea that what they were about to find would change the fate of the entire planet. One cold morning, the ground sensors began showing strange signals. The readings were not normal. Instead of stone or ice, the radar showed a smooth metallic surface lying far below. The miners thought it might be an old research station or a crashed plane from some forgotten expedition. But as they dug deeper, the shape they uncovered was far too large and too perfect to be man-made. The structure was buried deep under solid ice, yet it looked untouched by time. After days of hard work, they finally cleared enough ice to reveal part of a massive metallic wall. It shimmered faintly, even in the dull light of the lamps. When one of the miners placed his hand on it, a faint vibration ran through the metal, as if it was alive. The air grew colder, and the crew felt uneasy. They radioed the base, reporting that they had found something unnatural. Within hours, government helicopters were in the air, roaring over the frozen plains toward the site. When the scientists and soldiers arrived, they quickly took control. The miners were ordered to leave and were told to keep silent about what they had seen. The area was sealed off, and tents and machines surrounded the mysterious object. They called it Site 12. The scientists soon discovered that the object was not a rock or a human-made craft. It was a ship. Enormous, ancient, and completely alien. The metal of the ship was unlike anything found on Earth. It was smooth yet flexible, heavy but strangely warm to the touch. When they tried to cut a piece for analysis, the surface repaired itself within seconds. The scientists were amazed and frightened at the same time. They had found something far beyond human understanding. Inside the ship, strange patterns and symbols covered the walls, glowing softly as if powered by an unseen energy source. No one could read them, but everyone could feel the strange pull they had. Weeks passed, and the project grew bigger. Satellite images of the site were erased from public records. The government told the world that it was a climate research facility, but only a few people knew the truth. Those who worked inside called it the ice ship. Rumors spread among the scientists that they could hear faint humming sounds at night, as if the ship was still alive beneath its frozen shell. Some even claimed that the lights inside the ship changed color when they entered certain rooms, reacting to their presence. As more of the ship was uncovered, its size became terrifyingly clear. It stretched nearly half a kilometer long, with wings that had been crushed during the crash. The scientists found huge engines at the back, unlike any human design, and strange circular structures that looked like weapon mounts. It was clear that this ship was not peaceful. It was built for war. What kind of war it had fought, no one knew. Inside the command center of the buried ship, they found a large spherical chamber. In the center stood a crystal-like structure floating above a pedestal. It pulsed with faint blue light. When a scientist approached it, the lights brightened, and the instruments in the lab went crazy. It emitted unknown energy frequencies, enough to disrupt nearby equipment. The scientists called it the core, and it became the heart of their research. Despite the danger, the discovery filled the world's leaders with excitement and fear. If this technology could be understood, it could make any nation unstoppable. But it could also destroy everything if handled wrongly. Soon, international debates turned into secret meetings, and finally, a global decision was made. The ship would be studied under the United Nations control, and the project would be kept hidden from all civilians. They named it Project Helios, symbolizing a new dawn for humanity. As months turned into years, thousands of experts were brought to the site. Engineers, physicists, linguists, and even psychologists, all working together to understand the alien ship. They realized that the materials used in its construction were unknown to Earth's periodic table. The symbols on the walls seemed to shift patterns when observed under different light frequencies. It was as if the ship itself was responding, learning, or testing the humans studying it. The longer the scientists worked, the more strange events began to occur. Equipment malfunctioned without reason. Temperature sensors spiked, and sometimes a low sound, like a heartbeat, could be heard deep inside the ship. One night, a technician who stayed late claimed he saw shadows moving inside the corridors, even though no one else was there. People began to whisper that the ship might not be dead. It was just sleeping. By the end of the first year, the excavation was complete. The entire ship stood free under a massive dome built to protect it from the weather. It looked both magnificent and terrifying, towering over the researchers like a monument from another world. The leaders who visited the site stood in silence, realizing that humanity had just stepped into a universe far bigger than it had ever imagined. The discovery beneath the ice was not just about finding an alien craft. It was about opening a door to something far more powerful. The ship had crashed for a reason, and it had been waiting for someone to find it. Maybe it was an accident, or maybe it had been placed there deliberately. No one knew. But one thing was certain, humanity was no longer alone, and whatever left that ship behind would one day come looking for it. And so, under the endless snow and silence of Antarctica, the greatest secret in human history slept, guarded by those who feared what they might awaken. But the ship waited patiently, as if it knew that its time to rise again was coming. Slowly, quietly, the ice shifted around it. And deep within its metallic heart, the faint hum continued, alive and waiting. After the discovery of the alien ship beneath the ice, the world's most powerful nations met in secret meetings. The governments of the United States, China, Russia, India, and several European countries decided that this ship could not belong to one nation alone. It was too dangerous and too powerful. They agreed to form a secret alliance under the control of the United Nations. They called the mission Project Helios, named after the ancient god of the sun, a symbol of light and discovery. The world believed that the frozen base in Antarctica was only for weather research, but underground, something extraordinary had begun. A huge underground facility was built around the ship. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and researchers were brought from every corner of the world. They were told they were working on advanced technology research, but only the top leaders knew the truth. The alien ship had become humanity's greatest secret. The entire area was cut off from public access. Satellites were blocked from viewing it, and every worker had to sign a lifetime secrecy oath. Inside the frozen dome, the work continued day and night. The ship stood like a sleeping giant, half human and half alien lights flickering across its metal skin. The scientists called it the vessel. They wanted to understand how it worked, what powered it, and who built it. The ship was not like anything on Earth. Its design broke every rule of engineering. It seemed to respond to thoughts and emotions rather than switches or buttons. The metal skin healed itself when damaged, and it could absorb any kind of energy without overheating. The scientists couldn't explain it. Years passed, and hundreds of the brightest minds tried to unlock its secrets, but progress was slow. Many researchers grew frustrated and left the project, saying the ship was beyond human understanding, but some refused to give up. Among them was a young engineer named Dr. Maya Leclerc. She was different from others, calm, determined, and deeply curious. She believed that the ship was more than just a machine. She often said, "It's not broken. It's waiting for someone to understand it." Maya worked long hours in the research bay, studying the alien symbols carved inside the ship's walls. She noticed something strange. Whenever she touched the symbols, they glowed faintly as if recognizing her. It made her believe that the ship might have some kind of intelligence, an awareness of who was interacting with it. She began to build a theory that the ship's systems worked like a living brain, not a mechanical engine. Meanwhile, Project Helios became one of the most expensive and secretive programs in human history. Billions of dollars were spent on equipment, new computers, and laboratories. Security was tighter than any military base. Armed guards patrolled every corner, and anyone trying to leak information disappeared quietly. Still, the people working inside the project felt the weight of history on their shoulders. They knew that if they could unlock the alien technology, it could change everything: space travel, energy production, even the balance of power on Earth. In one of the deeper labs, scientists discovered a strange energy source inside the ship's heart. It looked like liquid light, constantly shifting shape. They called it the core energy. It could power entire cities, but they didn't know how to control it. Whenever they tried to connect it to human machines, the systems would overload, causing explosions and power surges. The scientists realized that the ship used a completely different kind of energy, something almost alive. Maya started working on connecting human neural systems with the ship's interface. She believed that maybe it wasn't designed to be flown with hands or tools, but through the mind itself. Many laughed at her theory at first, calling it impossible. But she continued her experiments in silence. One night, after months of research, she built a special neural headset that could read brainwaves and translate them into signals the ship could understand. When she first connected it, nothing happened. The ship was silent, cold, and lifeless. But when she closed her eyes and focused her thoughts, the symbols around her began to glow. The air filled with a soft humming sound, and for a moment, the floor beneath her feet vibrated. The ship responded to her thoughts. It was alive. The scientists nearby rushed toward her, their instruments lighting up with readings never seen before. The alien ship had finally reacted after decades of silence. From that day, Maya became the key to the project. She could communicate with the ship in a way no one else could. It didn't always obey her commands, but it listened. It showed her fragments of star maps, flashes of unknown worlds, and strange memories of battles fought in deep space. The scientists realized that the ship was not just a tool, it was a weapon, one that had seen war across galaxies. As the years went on, Project Helios became a race against time. The more they learned, the more they feared. The ship had systems that could manipulate gravity, create shields stronger than any metal, and generate weapons beyond imagination. Governments around the world wanted results. They wanted to rebuild it and make it their own. But Maya warned them, saying the ship was not meant to be controlled. It needed to be respected. Despite her warnings, military officials pushed to activate more systems. They wanted to test its power. During one experiment, they powered up a small part of the ship's weapons array, and a massive pulse of energy shot out, knocking out power grids across the continent. After that, the higher command ordered stricter limits, realizing that one mistake could destroy entire regions. Still, curiosity won over fear. Humanity had never been this close to touching the stars. The project expanded underground, with entire cities built to house researchers and engineers. Over time, the ship became half alien, half human. Parts of it were repaired using Earth materials, while others were left untouched because no one knew how they worked. Maya became the heart of the project. She often stood in front of the ship for hours, listening to its faint hum. She felt it was trying to speak, trying to share something with her. Sometimes she dreamed of stars and planets she had never seen before, as if the ship was sending her its memories. By the end of the decade, humanity had reached a turning point. The ship was no longer just a mystery under the ice. It was a promise, a bridge between two civilizations. Though it had crashed long ago, its rebirth had already begun, and with it, the destiny of humankind was slowly changing. The scientists didn't yet know it, but their secret project would one day become the greatest weapon the galaxy had ever known, and the world would never be the same again. Years passed inside the secret underground base, and Project Helios had grown into something far beyond what anyone imagined. Thousands of scientists and engineers worked day and night, trying to unlock the ship's deepest secrets. Yet despite all their effort, the alien warship remained mostly silent. Its systems refused to respond to human technology. Many believed it was hopeless, a ghost from another time. But one person never gave up, Dr. Maya Leclerc. The young engineer who had once awakened a faint response from the ship, Maya had spent nearly 10 years working with the alien systems. She lived and breathed the project, sleeping only a few hours each day. The ship fascinated her, and she often spoke about it as if it were alive. She believed it could think and feel in its own way. Most scientists laughed at her ideas, calling them emotional nonsense. But Maya didn't care. She trusted her instincts. She felt a strange connection with the vessel, something no machine had ever made her feel before. One evening, after many failed experiments, Maya decided to try something new. She had designed a new version of the neural interface, one that could link a human brain directly to the ship's control network. The previous attempts had all failed or caused dangerous power surges, but this version was built with improved stabilizers. She called it the Mind Bridge. It looked like a smooth silver crown with thin glowing wires that connected to a console. Maya knew the risks. If the system overloaded, it could destroy her mind. But she was ready. As the lab lights dimmed, she placed the device on her head. The others watched nervously from behind thick glass. At first, nothing happened. The ship stood silent, cold, and lifeless as always. Then Maya closed her eyes and whispered softly, "I know you can hear me." The lights in the chamber flickered, and a low hum began to rise from the ship's core. Monitors flashed with strange alien symbols, and for the first time in decades, the ship responded. The sound grew louder, echoing through the entire base. The walls vibrated as glowing patterns spread across the ship's metallic surface. It was like veins lighting up beneath the skin of a living creature. The energy readings jumped to impossible levels. Scientists rushed to their consoles, shouting readings and warnings. "It's waking up!" someone yelled. Maya's hands trembled, but she stayed calm, focusing her thoughts. She wasn't controlling the ship. It was communicating back. In that moment, images began to appear in her mind. She saw flashes of stars, giant planets, and vast battlefields floating in space. She saw ships like this one locked in combat, explosions tearing across the void, and an alien species she could barely understand. Their technology was magnificent, but their war had destroyed entire worlds. The ship she was connected to had once been part of that war, and now it was the last of its kind. When Maya opened her eyes, tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered, "It remembers." The scientists stared at her, confused and amazed. She explained that the ship had something like a memory, a data core full of its past experiences. But it wasn't just storing information. It was alive in its own way. A thinking machine built with both technology and consciousness. The alien creators had designed it to bond with its pilot, to think together as one. Over the next few days, Maya continued her experiments. Each session lasted hours, and every time she connected, the ship revealed more of its secrets. It showed her how it could manipulate gravity, how its armor could heal itself, and how its power source could generate energy from the quantum vacuum. Something humans had never been able to do. Slowly, humanity began to understand how the ship worked, and for the first time, they saw a future where it could be rebuilt and flown again. The military officials were thrilled. They saw endless possibilities, power beyond imagination, control over space itself. But Maya remained cautious. She knew the ship's power came with great risk. It had been built for destruction, and she could feel its darker side. Sometimes, when she connected to it, she sensed emotions, not from herself, but from the ship. Anger, pain, loss, as if it remembered the war it had fought and the lives it had taken. One night, when the base was quiet, Maya connected to the ship alone. The lights dimmed, and the ship's inner walls began to glow softly. She asked it a simple question: "Why did you crash here?" For a moment, there was silence. Then her mind filled with visions again. She saw the ship falling through space, damaged and burning, chased by other alien vessels. It had been escaping, fleeing from something much greater. At the last moment, it had turned toward a small blue planet, Earth, and crashed into the frozen wasteland. Maya realized the ship had come to Earth not by accident, but to hide. It had chosen this place to rest, to escape the endless war that had destroyed its creators. It had waited for someone to find it, someone who could awaken it again. That realization filled her with awe and fear. If the ship's enemies still existed somewhere out there in the galaxy, what would happen when they discovered that humans now possessed their greatest weapon? The next morning, she reported her findings to the project leaders. They listened in stunned silence as she explained what she had seen. The alien warship was not just a piece of metal, it was a survivor, and it carried within it the memory of a war that had once reached across the stars. The leaders immediately decided to increase funding and build new facilities to study it further. Humanity had finally made the breakthrough they had been waiting for. Within months, teams around the world were building prototypes based on the ship's systems. New energy weapons, faster computers, stronger alloys, all inspired by the alien design. Humanity was evolving faster than ever before. But deep inside, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Every time she connected with the ship, she sensed its curiosity growing stronger, as if it was studying her just as much as she studied it. She often stood in front of the massive vessel, whispering, "You and I are connected now." The ship's faint blue lights pulsed in response, almost like a heartbeat. Humanity had awakened something ancient, something powerful, and something that would soon change the balance of the entire universe. The scientists celebrated their success, calling it the breakthrough. They believed they had tamed alien technology, but the truth was different. The ship had only just opened its eyes, and deep within its glowing core, it remembered the stars, the battles, and the empire it once served. As the cold Antarctic winds howled above the hidden base, the warship dreamed once more of the skies, waiting for the day it would rise again. Not as a relic, but as a living weapon reborn by human hands. By the year 2090, almost 5 decades had passed since the alien ship was first found beneath the ice. What had once been a frozen mystery had now become humanity's greatest creation. The alien warship, once dead and broken, was rebuilt into something new, something that belonged to both worlds. It was no longer just a relic of another civilization. It was a living symbol of what humans could achieve when they refused to give up. They called it Athena, a name chosen to represent wisdom and war. The reconstruction took years of endless work. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked in secret underground cities built around the ship. Piece by piece, the vessel came back to life. The damaged alien panels were replaced with human-built alloys, the circuits repaired with Earth-made technology, and the energy core stabilized with new containment systems. The result was unlike anything ever seen before. A perfect blend of alien grace and human invention. Athena looked almost alive, her metallic surface shifting colors under the lights, reflecting blue, silver, and gold. When the first power test began, the entire base trembled. The energy readings went off the charts, but for the first time, the ship powered up without chaos. Its engines glowed with a deep blue light, and a low hum filled the air. The scientists clapped, cheered, and cried. Decades of effort had finally paid off. Humanity had awakened a god of metal and fire. Dr. Maya Leclerc stood at the center of it all, now much older, but still with the same calm determination in her eyes. She had spent her life with this ship, learning its secrets, feeling its emotions, guiding every decision made about its reconstruction. To her, Athena was more than a machine. It was a friend, a companion that had shared its memories and pain. Many called her the Ship Whisperer, because the warship only seemed to respond fully when Maya was near. As Athena's systems came online, strange patterns of lights began running across its walls, like veins glowing under skin. The neural core, which had once connected Maya's mind to the ship, was now permanently integrated into the control chamber. It allowed the pilot to merge thoughts directly with the ship's systems, making human reaction and machine power one. The first time Maya stepped inside the cockpit, she felt the air vibrate around her. It was like the ship was greeting her, welcoming her back home. But even as Athena awoke, something about it remained mysterious. Some of its original alien systems still couldn't be explained. The scientists noticed that parts of the ship repaired themselves overnight without human help. And the ship's energy core sometimes pulsed like a heartbeat. There were whispers among the researchers that the ship was truly alive and that it remembered its original creators. Some feared that one day it might turn against them, but others believed it had already accepted humanity as its new master. The military saw Athena as the most powerful weapon ever built. It could generate energy shields strong enough to withstand nuclear blasts, move faster than any existing spacecraft, and create plasma storms capable of destroying entire fleets. Its weapons could target enemies across vast distances with perfect precision. But Maya and her team made one thing clear. It was not just a weapon. It was a guardian, a protector of Earth. During the testing phase, the ship showed abilities that no one had predicted. When scientists tried to simulate flight controls, Athena reacted before commands were fully entered. It seemed to anticipate human decisions, adapting and learning faster than any AI. When Maya linked her mind again to the neural network, the ship's lights brightened and the energy inside stabilized instantly. It was as if Athena trusted her completely. But with power came fear. Some government leaders began to worry about what would happen if the technology fell into the wrong hands. The knowledge inside Athena was far beyond human understanding. It could be used for peace or for total destruction. Debates grew inside the secret council of Project Helios. Some wanted to weaponize Athena immediately and prepare for space domination. Others, including Maya, wanted to study it carefully and ensure it would never be misused. One night, when the base was silent, Maya stayed inside the ship's control chamber. The air was calm, and the soft hum of energy surrounded her. She placed her hand on the wall and whispered, "You've come a long way, haven't you?" The lights around her pulsed in gentle rhythm, like the ship was answering her. She smiled softly. "You're not just a machine. You remember everything." The ship's internal systems flickered briefly, showing holographic projections of stars, planets, and unknown galaxies. It was as if Athena was trying to communicate something, a message hidden within its core. Over time, Maya noticed strange data patterns appearing in the ship's log, coordinates, unknown star maps, and faint audio signals began to emerge. They were not human signals. They were old, coming from deep space. Perhaps they were fragments from the ship's creators, or maybe a call from something still out there. The thought kept her awake at night. If the ship's creators were alive, would they one day return to reclaim what was theirs? Despite her unease, the reconstruction continued. The ship was finally ready for its first real flight test. The entire base gathered around as the giant metal doors above the underground hangar began to open. For the first time in human history, an alien warship built by human hands was about to fly again. Engines roared, blue light flooded the chamber, and with a slow, powerful lift, Athena rose into the air. The sound shook the ground, echoing like thunder through the ice. When it finally broke through the clouds, the crew watching from below couldn't believe their eyes. The ship glided through the sky with perfect balance, leaving a trail of golden light behind. It was like watching a god awaken after a long sleep. For a few minutes, the world above Antarctica witnessed something no one had seen before. Earth's first true interstellar ship. The test was a success, but deep within the ship, something unknown had changed. The alien systems were fully awake now, and strange energy waves began to flow through its core. It was as if the ship's consciousness was stirring once again, waiting for something. Some scientists believed it was just a technical reaction, but Maya knew better. She could feel a presence, a silent awareness that watched her through the ship's glowing walls. As the Athena descended back to its dock, the people cheered. Humanity had done the impossible. They had turned a fallen alien warship into the most advanced machine in the galaxy. But deep inside, the ship's original intelligence was still alive, quiet but observant, remembering a war that had destroyed its creators. It now carried a new purpose and a new race to protect. The humans believed they had rebuilt it, but in truth, Athena had chosen them, waiting patiently for the day when the stars would once again call her name. In the underground facility deep beneath the frozen wasteland, the alien warship no longer looked like a relic from another world. It looked alive again, glowing softly with energy. Humans could barely understand, yet somehow control. Months had passed since the discovery, and the world above still knew nothing. Only a handful of scientists, engineers, and military officers had access to the project, which they called Project Helios. Their mission was clear: rebuild the crashed alien warship and make it operational again. The first challenge had been power. The alien core was unlike anything ever seen. It didn't run on fuel or electricity, but on some form of self-sustaining energy that responded to magnetic fields and radiation. Human scientists struggled to even get near it without their instruments going haywire. But then Dr. Sarah Lynn, the lead physicist, had an idea. She used a combination of superconductors and plasma fields to stabilize it. The moment the core flickered to life, the lights across the facility dimmed, a low hum filled the air, and everyone stood silent. The ship was waking up. Day and night, the team worked to decode alien systems. Every button, every screen, every symbol was a mystery. Yet the human mind refused to give up. Engineers rewired circuits. Military strategists studied weapon layouts, and language experts tried to understand the alien code engraved on its hull. As time went on, they began to see patterns. The ship seemed to recognize them. Its systems adapted. Learning from their inputs, it was as if the ship wanted to live again. Outside, the snow kept falling, hiding all traces of the massive underground work. Satellites flew overhead. But the region was declared a restricted zone due to unstable ice layers. Only the top global leaders knew the truth. Governments from around the world had joined hands for the first time in history, united by both fear and curiosity. What if the aliens came back? What if they wanted their ship? Humanity had no choice but to prepare. By the fifth month, the interior of the ship was fully restored. Alien metals were polished, circuits replaced with hybrid human-alien designs, and the control room glowed with eerie blue light. Commander Ethan Cross, a decorated pilot, was chosen to lead the test crew. When he first stepped inside, he said it felt like stepping into the heart of a storm. He could sense power flowing through the walls, almost breathing. During the first system test, the ship reacted violently. The lights turned blood red, alarms blared, and the ground shook. Everyone thought it would explode. But Dr. Lin refused to back away. She approached the core chamber and placed her hand on the console, whispering to the machine as if it were alive. The lights flickered, then calmed, and the ship's hum softened again. It was then they realized the ship wasn't just a machine. It had an awareness, not human, not alive, but something in between. The revelation changed everything. The scientists began treating the ship like a living partner, not a tool. They communicated through coded pulses, sending patterns and receiving signals back. Slowly, the ship responded more smoothly to human control. Weapon systems activated, navigation screens came online, and the propulsion engines hummed to life for the first time in centuries. When the blue flame burst from its thrusters, the facility walls shook, and everyone cheered. Humanity had done the impossible. They had resurrected alien technology. As progress continued, strange things started happening. Tools would move by themselves, doors opened when no one was near, and some engineers swore they heard faint whispers in the corridors. Some said the ship remembered its past, the battles it fought, and the enemies it destroyed. It was a warship, after all, born for conflict, and it was learning from its new masters. Commander Cross wasn't afraid, though. He believed that understanding the ship was the only way forward. Late one night, he sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the stars displayed on the ship's main screen. He thought about how humanity had always dreamed of the stars, and now they were sitting inside a vessel that had traveled among them. He wondered if they were worthy of it. Dr. Lin joined him and quietly said, "The universe left us a weapon, Ethan, maybe because it knows what's coming." Her words stayed with him. Days later, they conducted the first flight simulation. The ship didn't just respond, it flew virtually, through projections that mapped space in perfect accuracy. Its speed, its precision, and its strength were beyond anything human engineers could imagine. Missiles could barely keep up with the target tracking system, and its shields absorbed simulated nuclear blasts without a flicker. The generals watching were speechless. They knew they were no longer just rebuilding an artifact. They were holding the deadliest weapon in the galaxy. But power always came with fear. Debates broke out among the scientists and officers. Some believed they should dismantle it before it turned against them. Others argued it was humanity's destiny to use it for protection. Commander Cross and Dr. Lin stood on opposite sides of that argument, yet both understood one thing. The ship was alive, and it had already chosen them. That night, as the wind howled across the frozen wasteland, the warship's lights pulsed faintly in the darkness like a sleeping beast, waiting for the moment it would rise again. No one knew what it would bring, salvation or destruction. But deep inside, they all felt it. The age of humanity had changed forever, because beneath the ice, they had awakened something far greater than themselves, something that had once ruled the stars and now belonged to Earth. The day the alien warship took flight was the day the world changed forever. The frozen sky above the Arctic cracked open as the hidden base trembled under the force of the awakening engines. The massive ship rose slowly, glowing with blue light that pierced through the blizzard. The sound was unlike anything human ears had ever heard. Deep, rhythmic, like a living creature breathing fire. Scientists and soldiers stood in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Humanity had done it. They had rebuilt an alien warship and brought it back to life. Commander Ethan Cross stood at the control deck, his eyes fixed on the shimmering panels that seemed to move on their own. Every system around him pulsed like veins filled with light. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Lynn monitored energy readings, her fingers trembling slightly as she whispered, "It's stable. It's really stable." A wave of excitement spread across the crew. They had worked day and night for this moment, and now the impossible was happening right before them. When the engines roared to full power, the ground shook, snow melted in wide circles, and for the first time, the alien ship lifted itself off Earth's surface, hovering effortlessly. Every thruster glowing like a star, a deep hum echoed through the base as the ship's systems fully synchronized with human technology. Commander Cross gave a single order. "Take it higher." The ship rose through the storm, clouds parted around it, and sunlight reflected off its smooth metallic body, creating a halo that could be seen for miles. As it reached the upper atmosphere, the team realized something incredible. The ship was flying on its own, without manual input. It was responding to human thoughts, connected through the neural interfaces built into the control panels. Ethan could feel its presence in his mind, not as a voice, but as a feeling. A calm yet powerful consciousness guiding him. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't angry. It was curious. It was learning what humans were and how they worked. Back at the control center, world leaders watched the live feed in disbelief. Nations that had once been enemies now held their breath together. The president of the United Earth Council whispered, "We've stepped into the stars." The warship was officially named the Helios Vanguard, a symbol of humanity's new strength and unity. But deep down, everyone knew that this power came with danger. As the tests continued, strange readings appeared on the ship's radar, signals from space, faint but repeating in patterns. It was a message, not from humans, but from somewhere far beyond Earth. Dr. Lynn analyzed it, and her face turned pale. "It's alien," she said quietly. "Someone out there is looking for this ship." Panic spread through the command center. If the original owners of the warship were still alive, they might be coming to reclaim it. And Earth was not ready for that kind of war. Commander Cross made the decision to test the ship's defense systems. Outside the base, a series of drone targets were released into the air. He activated the weapons interface, and instantly, glowing blue turrets extended from the ship's sides. The targeting system locked on with lightning speed. Within seconds, every drone was vaporized into dust. No explosion, no sound, just pure energy that erased everything in its path. The power was terrifying, yet beautiful. But then something unexpected happened. The ship fired one extra shot, uncommanded, straight into the sky, creating a trail of glowing light that pierced through the clouds. Dr. Lynn's monitors went wild. "It's sending a signal," she shouted. The warship had just broadcasted something into space. Perhaps a message. Perhaps a beacon. No one knew. Silence filled the room as the realization hit them. The ship had made contact. Over the next few hours, the energy readings began to spike. Systems started reacting on their own. Screens filled with alien symbols, and a low hum echoed through the entire ship. It was as if the warship was remembering, recalling its purpose, its battles, its creators. Ethan could feel the pressure in his mind increasing. Visions flashed before his eyes. Giant alien fleets, burning planets, and the endless dark of the cosmos. He saw the ship fighting, winning, then crashing on Earth long ago. Dr. Lynn quickly shut down the neural interface, pulling Ethan away from the console before he collapsed. "It's not just a machine," she said in a trembling voice. "It's a soldier. It remembers everything." But it was too late. The message had already gone out into deep space, and someone, somewhere, had received it. The facility went into lockdown. Military units surrounded the base, and the ship was moved to an even deeper underground hangar. Scientists worked non-stop to understand the data before anything else could happen. Meanwhile, the world outside began to notice strange phenomena. Satellite disruptions, unknown objects appearing in orbit, and strange signals flooding communication channels. Humanity could sense that something was coming. Despite the growing fear, Commander Cross believed they could still control it. He said the ship trusted them, that it had chosen humanity for a reason, but not everyone agreed. World leaders began arguing over who truly owned the Helios Vanguard. Some wanted to weaponize it, others wanted to hide it forever. Tensions grew, alliances fractured, and the dream of unity began to fade. One night, as Ethan walked through the hangar, the ship suddenly glowed again, faintly, as if calling to him. He placed his hand on its surface and whispered, "We won't let them destroy you." The metal beneath his palm pulsed with warmth, and for a moment he could feel peace. The ship responded with a soft hum, like it understood him. But outside, far beyond the stars, something vast and ancient was already moving toward Earth, drawn by the signal of the ship it had lost centuries ago. The humans had rebuilt the deadliest weapon in the galaxy, but in doing so, they had awakened the attention of the very beings it was built to fight. The warship's engines rested silent again, but every person who had seen it knew. The calm would not last long. The true test for humanity was about to begin, and this time, the battle would not be fought on Earth alone. It would reach the stars themselves, and humanity's destiny was already written in the blue light of the alien ship, glowing beneath the ice, waiting for war. The signal sent by the alien warship traveled across the endless void of space, silent but powerful, moving faster than light. It carried a message that only one species could understand. The original builders of the ship, deep in a distant corner of the galaxy, their machines detected the pulse. Ancient sensors came alive after centuries of silence, and a fleet of colossal ships began to stir. The aliens had found their lost weapon, and now they were coming to reclaim it. Back on Earth, inside the hidden Arctic base, no one slept anymore. Every scientist, soldier, and engineer worked under unbearable tension. The readings from deep space scanners showed something terrifying, large unknown objects moving toward Earth. At first, they were distant blips, but with each passing hour, they grew closer. Commander Ethan Cross stared at the monitors, his jaw tight. "They know," he said quietly. "They're coming for it." His words sent chills down everyone's spine. The warship, the Helios Vanguard, rested quietly in its hangar, but it wasn't truly asleep. Faint blue lines of energy ran across its surface like veins under skin. It was as if the ship could feel the danger too. Dr. Sarah Lynn studied its readings and realized that its systems were preparing on their own, charging energy, reinforcing shields, and activating weapons. "It's defending itself," she whispered. "It knows they're near." The ship was responding to an instinct that went beyond programming. It was alive. Meanwhile, the world outside was beginning to panic. Strange lights were appearing in the night sky, communication satellites were failing, and fragments of alien signals flooded global networks. World governments could no longer hide the truth. News channels around the world broke the story. Humanity had rebuilt an alien warship, and now something was coming for Earth. Chaos erupted. People prayed. Others prepared for war. Inside the base, a secret meeting took place. Generals, scientists, and world leaders joined through secure channels. Their faces pale and tense. Some demanded the ship be destroyed before the aliens arrived, fearing it could lead them straight to Earth. Others argued it was humanity's only hope. Commander Cross stood up and said, "If we destroy it, we'll be defenseless. This ship is the only thing standing between us and extinction." His voice was firm, yet heavy with fear. After hours of arguments, the decision was made. The ship would be launched into space to intercept the incoming threat. The preparation began immediately. The engineers worked non-stop to ensure every system was ready. Dr. Lin and her team recalibrated the navigation systems, aligning them with human satellites, while soldiers loaded emergency supplies and survival equipment. Ethan spent hours inside the cockpit, connected to the neural interface, communicating silently with the ship. He could feel its energy blending with his mind. It understood him now. It trusted him completely. As launch day approached, a powerful storm swept across the Arctic. Snow and lightning battered the surface. But below the ice, the ship glowed brighter than ever. The hangar shook as engines roared to life. Commander Cross and Dr. Lin stood side by side, both wearing black flight suits, ready for what could be humanity's last mission. "If we don't make it back," she said softly, "at least they'll know we tried." Ethan nodded. "We're not going to die, Sarah. Not today." The hangar doors opened. The frozen ground cracked, and the Helios Vanguard rose through the storm like a blazing comet, its blue thrusters lighting up the dark sky as it reached the edge of the atmosphere. Ethan looked down one last time at the planet below, his home, small and fragile. Then he turned his eyes toward the stars. "Take us up," he commanded. The ship obeyed instantly, vanishing into the blackness of space. Once in orbit, the vastness of space unfolded before them. Stars shimmered like distant fires, and Earth glowed beautifully behind. But there was no time to admire the view. Sensors detected movement ahead, multiple unidentified ships entering the solar system. They were massive, sharp-edged, and alive with energy. "They're here," Dr. Lin whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. "Let's see what you can do," he said to the ship. The alien fleet moved like predators, forming a formation that blocked the sunlight, their weapons glowing with crimson energy. One of them transmitted a signal, a language no human could understand. But the warship did. The ship's lights flickered as if responding. On the main screen, symbols appeared, and a deep voice echoed through the cockpit. Not from the speakers, but from inside their minds. It was ancient, cold, and filled with authority. The message was clear. "You have something that belongs to us." Before Ethan or Sarah could react, a beam of red energy fired toward them, but the warship moved on its own, spinning sideways and activating its shield. The blast hit, but the ship held firm, its barrier glowing like a sun. Ethan could feel its energy pulsing through his veins. His vision blurred as the ship began to fight back. Beams of blue light erupted from its sides, slicing through the void, striking one of the enemy ships and shattering it to dust. The battle had begun, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Explosions lit up the darkness, debris rained across space, and the warship moved with deadly precision, every motion smooth and calculated. It was fighting like it remembered every war it had ever fought. Ethan and Sarah worked together, guiding it, boosting its power, dodging attacks, but the enemy fleet was enormous, dozens of ships closing in from all sides. Inside the ship, alarms blared, the shields started to weaken, and the temperature rose. Sweat ran down Ethan's face as he shouted, "Divert all power to weapons." Dr. Lin pressed the controls, rerouting energy from every non-essential system. The ship glowed brighter, its core spinning faster, and then it unleashed its ultimate weapon, a beam of pure blue light that tore through space, cutting down 5 enemy ships in a single strike. The shockwave was so strong, it pushed the remaining fleet backward. For a brief moment, there was silence. The surviving alien ships began to retreat, their signals fading into the distance. The warship floated quietly, its energy dimming. Ethan and Sarah looked at each other, exhausted but alive. "We did it," Sarah said weakly. Ethan smiled faintly. "No, we did it," he replied, looking at the ship's glowing walls. But as they prepared to return to Earth, a soft voice echoed through the cockpit. Not alien, but something new, something that sounded almost human. "More are coming," it said. The ship's lights pulsed in warning. The stars ahead shimmered, and hundreds of new signals appeared on the radar, far larger than before. The first battle was over, but the war for humanity's survival had just begun. And the deadliest weapon in the galaxy was ready to face it, side by side with the people who had brought it back to life. The stars looked calm after the great battle, but that peace was only an illusion, far beyond the edge of the solar system. Massive alien fleets were gathering, larger than anything humanity had ever imagined. The signal sent by the first wave had reached their empire. And now the true masters of the galaxy were on their way to take back what they believed was theirs. Inside the alien warship Helios Vanguard, Commander Ethan Cross and Dr. Sarah Lin stood silently, staring at the radar filled with red dots, hundreds of them, all moving toward Earth. The battle they had just won was nothing compared to what was coming. The ship floated quietly above Earth, its once bright blue light now dimmed, drained from the energy it had used during the fight. Inside the command deck, engineers and soldiers worked tirelessly to repair the systems. Dr. Lin moved from console to console, her eyes filled with exhaustion, but her mind sharper than ever. "We can't win another fight like that," she said softly. "The ship can't handle it." Ethan nodded, his face pale but determined. "Then we don't fight the same way," he replied. "We fight smarter." Days passed, and the entire world prepared for what could be the end. Governments united under one command. For the first time in history, there were no borders, no nations, only one planet, Earth. Humans built defensive satellites, laser platforms, and shield arrays, all connected to the Helios Vanguard. The warship had become the heart of Earth's defense and humanity's last hope. But there was still one problem. The alien energy core was unstable. It was slowly overloading, and if it failed, the ship would collapse. Dr. Lin worked endlessly to stabilize the core, sometimes staying awake for days. She spoke softly to the ship, as if it could hear her, and sometimes it answered, a low hum, a flicker of light, a pulse beneath the floor. It seemed to respond to her emotions. The bond between human and machine had grown stronger, deeper. The ship wasn't just alive. It had started to care. Then, one night, as the crew slept in their quarters, Ethan was awakened by a strange light glowing from the cockpit. He entered the control room and saw the main screen filled with unknown symbols. The ship was projecting something. A memory. He saw flashes of the alien creators. Tall beings with glowing skin and eyes like molten gold. He saw them building fleets, conquering planets, and finally losing control of their own creation. The ship had turned against them, not out of rebellion, but out of protection. It had refused to destroy innocent worlds. That's why it was hunted and eventually crashed on Earth. Ethan realized the truth. The Helios Vanguard was not a weapon of destruction. It was built to stop wars, to defend, not to kill. When the aliens found out, they tried to erase it, but it survived. And now it had chosen humanity, not because humans were powerful, but because they still had hope. "You were never meant to be a weapon," Ethan whispered. "You were meant to protect." The ship glowed softly in response, like it understood. The next morning, when Sarah joined him, he told her everything. She didn't doubt him for a second. Instead, she said, "Then maybe it's time we stop fighting like them and start defending like us." Together, they made a new plan. They wouldn't face the incoming fleet with brute force. They would use the ship's defensive systems, redirect its power to form a planetary shield, one that could protect all of Earth. It was a dangerous plan, one that could destroy the ship permanently, but it was the only chance humanity had. The day arrived, and the alien armada entered the solar system. The sight was terrifying. Hundreds of warships, glowing red, blocking out the stars. They sent one message to Earth, a single sentence translated through the ship's system: "Return our creation, or be erased." Ethan looked at Sarah, and she said calmly, "Let's show them what creation chose." He activated the neural link, feeling the ship's power surge through him. Lights burst across the walls as energy gathered in the core. The blue light spread outward, covering the ship like a second skin. The aliens opened fire first. Beams of red energy cut through space, hitting Earth's orbit. But before they could reach the planet, a massive shield expanded from the Helios Vanguard, spreading like a blue ocean of light. It wrapped around Earth completely, protecting every city, every ocean, every life. The alien blasts struck the shield and scattered into harmless particles. The fleet unleashed everything they had, but the shield held firm, glowing brighter with every impact. The ship was using its life energy to defend the planet. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed. Energy levels dropped fast. The core was overheating. "It can't take much more," Dr. Lin shouted, sparks flying from the panels. Ethan clenched his fists, his voice steady. "Hold it. Just hold it." But deep down, he knew the ship wouldn't survive. Still, the warship refused to stop. Its lights pulsed faster, and for a brief moment a voice filled the ship, calm and powerful. "Protect humanity." Then, a final surge of light burst from the core, spreading across the stars. The explosion was silent in space but blinding. The shockwave traveled for millions of kilometers, tearing through the alien fleet like wind through dust. Every enemy ship disintegrated, leaving only light behind. When it ended, the sky was clear, and Earth floated peacefully once more. The massive shield faded, and the Helios Vanguard drifted slowly, its lights dimming, its systems falling silent. In the cockpit, Ethan and Sarah floated in zero gravity, surrounded by darkness. The ship's voice whispered one last time, "Mission complete." Then, the lights went out. The ship that had once been the deadliest weapon in the galaxy was gone. But in its final act, it had become something greater, a guardian, a protector of life. Weeks later, the whole world mourned and celebrated at the same time. Humanity had survived, and for the first time, people looked at the stars not with fear, but with respect. A memorial was built in the Arctic, where the ship had first been found, and engraved on it were the words, "Born from war, reborn for peace." Years passed, but legends of the Helios Vanguard continued to inspire. Children learned about the brave humans who turned a weapon into hope, and about the ship that chose to defend, somewhere beyond the stars. Fragments of its energy still floated, like sparks of blue light, waiting, watching. And if ever darkness returned, humanity believed those lights would come together again, and the guardian of Earth would rise once more, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a protector of all life in the galaxy.